You can see it when you see me, but you gotta believe me. There ain't nothing coming easy my way.
Oh, suki now. Ha ha. Hell yeah. I know my dogs are watching, and if you ain't, I know you will be. And if you are watching and you ain't my dog yet, you will be, because I'm sweet and I'm here to help you get busy living. That's right. We are on a mission to go on one epic adventure every single month for 55 straight months. We've been doing it for 8. We got 47 to go. Tonight, it's about the paths we take to get to where we want to go. But first, since nothing is worth having if it ain't worth sharing, allow me to introduce my co-pilot on this journey, an entrepreneur out of Los Angeles, one of my all-time favorite humans, the Dazzling D Rex X time.
You never get tired of that.
I never do, and I never will. Hell yeah. Welcome back, my friend. How are you living?
I'm living well. How about yourself?
Man, whenever we have opportunity to bring other people into the family like we have tonight, man, it's like a special day. It's like a birthday or a child is born.
Yes, it's wonderful having new people on the show every week. And, speaking of people on the show, everybody in the comment section is on this show. So make sure you get in that
Yes.
comment section and say hello, because we are here to talk to you and talk about what you want to talk about. And we're so happy every week when we see you there.
My man Scooty Wells already in the house. Sup,
Of course he is.
dog?
Of course he is. I think it'd be really good if we could just start out giving people an update on where you're at, because your health issues have been so scary lately. So, if you could update us, that would be great.
Yeah. So great news today. I'm glad you asked. I actually today dropped off an MRI disc from the last hospital stay that I had that revealed some, very disturbing, to say the least, information. And I've been searching and seeking and trying to find help. And I finally had my primary care physician let me know today that they've located somebody that could possibly help me. And it ain't just anybody, it's somebody. I'm not going to go spreading rumors. But I dropped a disc off today at a very prominent local neurologist office today. And I remember when I was arriving that it put me back when I was in Malaysia, and I was searching for where I was going to live when I come back here, because, when I left to go, I sold everything and just started traveling, so I didn't have a home. Lyric was in Chicago and I was all over the States before I left. So I didn't have a place to come back to. So I chose Phoenix because I didn't have any friends here. And because number one reason, the industry here, the neurology industry here is top notch. And this place was the place that I was ultimately attracted to. And it's taken me 5.5 years. 5.5 years. It's literally like a couple days away from my 1 year, my 5-year anniversary of being in Phoenix.
Oh, wow. Well, you know what? That is actually really good news, because I think that a lot of people don't know until they're in that position. Like, I did not know. Obviously, Schaefer's mom knew. She chimed in last week about it. Is that when you're in a position to look for a specialized doctor, you think that you're going to just be able to call them up and get in. But that hasn't been the case. And that's frightening.
Yeah, I'm learning the hard way. Something that I want to say, speaking of people in the house, and Maria Carolina Salcedo, ladies and gentlemen, say hello to her. And Miss Lori Colonna is in the house. Thanks for showing up, Lori. Hey, Lori, I'm glad you're here, because I'm gonna run the slide of Schaefer riding his bike, which just warms my heart. I have to play it on silent because I never thought I'd see the day where Mez is chilling with the hose and the dog and playing country music in the backyard. I never thought I'd see that day. But so we'll probably have to play that video silent because it's got some music in the background, and we don't want to get that stuff, those violations, But I'm going to let Shave play today. But what I was trying to say is that last night we were talking, me and Maria Carolina Salcedo were talking at the bar about the chicken walk stop for them, where I got fries and chicken wing sauce to try to stay vegan. But nevertheless, she was bringing up the point that that if the same type of thing had happened to somebody in Colombia or other places in the world, they would not be able to live the type of blessed life that I'm able to live. I'm going to have a college degree. I have a successful operation going on, and it's all because of first of all, the human kindness, because you guys rescued me when I was overseas. But by the time I've come back here, I bet I've racked up several $1 million in health bills. And these guys, the U.S. government, takes care of me. So I just want to say, that thank you, Uncle Sam, because after we get our guest on, we start talking, I'm going to, remind you guys of why I left. And I wasn't real proud of my uncle, but my man has helped me out a lot since then. So I'm really thankful for that. I did jump ship and try to travel to the Eastern Hemisphere. Speaking of ships and jumping, I'd like to introduce my man Greg Ridinger to the show.
Oh, our amazing guest today! So exciting. Are you going to bring him in, or I'm going to bring him in?
Come on,
you got
come on,
him.
Greg.
Okay.
What's up, my man? How you living these days?
Oh,
hell yeah! Well, I can read your lips, and we're hearing the clicking. We've tried. Sorry about the opportunity to try to get your sound, but I can definitely hear something. Typically, the platform, D Rex, takes care of this type of problem, right?
yeah.
This platform, StreamYard, they take care of that stuff.
The sound is actually worse right now.
Let's see how it sounds.
Okay, so I just muted him. I'm going to unmute him now.
It's far worse actually than it was before.
Yes. Okay, we're going to mute you,
Greg, let me ask you. Keep yourself muted. But you went from an iPad to your iPhone, right? Never mind. I can't type it in the comments. You can do the private chat here, man.
Yeah.
So here, watch. I'll do it. No sweat, bro.
And you know what?
Don't worry.
Yeah, maybe we can have him call back in on that other line. And also, maybe we could show that video of Schaefer right now while he gets that happening. Ooh,
yeah.
I just got dust in my eye. What is this? This is like a bunch of disasters happening at once.
So, you can lean up a little bit, D-Rex, and clean the dust out of your eye because you have such pretty eyes that the whole audience is just dying to see them up close.
No.
We all know the truth. So yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. And I do want to say thank you for coming back to those of you in the audience. I love to see my girl Tasha in the house. Ray Farito is in the house. We got Erie in the house. So yeah, but while you're here, Erie, I want to show you one of our favorite people, my man Schaefer. This is the latest that I got. Quiet down there, no country music. Look at my man here. Guys, I can appreciate this. I can appreciate this because I know what it's like to have a little bit of a struggle. And the heart of this guy, it's like he doesn't even know or care, or he is just taking on the world. And his mom has been, from what I've seen and heard, right there, just like the fire under his butt, moving her along. So shout out, Lori. I want to say thank you again for hitting us up at nominations at the hswa.org and letting us know that you were interested in seeing if we could help Schaefer. And as we grow and prosper in this project and we get better at it and you guys like us more, we hope to start a trend of raising money to help people that we know we can help. So let me go ahead and take this down so you guys can see that. I'm gonna play it one more time. Actually, this is our man Schaefer.
Why don't you tell people about Schaefer a bit, because we might have some new people here who don't know him.
Absolutely. So Schaefer is a family member as far as I'm concerned, but I wasn't introduced to him that way. They hit us up at nominations at hswa.org and told us about him, and he was one of my all-time favorite people. My buddies from high school. It's his son, and we here at the Git Bizzy Livin project are convinced about the potential of stem cells to affect the American health and worldwide health. And we believe, although we're not going to make any claims of cures, we believe that stem cells can help this guy. And what I love most about this guy, and it was before I met him, but after I met him, it was like undeniable, is that, he is fearless and pushing. And he's helping himself. Obviously, this is a representative of his parents. I know Mez. I've known that kid since we were, we were in elementary. Well, no, I guess junior high school. And, he's been a fighter, and he's been, pushing and going, and Schaefer seems like he does that. And then I met him, and he owned the whole place as soon as he walked in, and he's helping himself. And that's what we're looking for. We want people that are helping themselves to the best of their ability. And now they, first of all, we believe they can be helped by what we're trying to offer with stem cells, or access to the stem cells, and education and awareness, is that we believe we can help him. And since he's trying hard to help himself, this guy gets up and fights every day. We want to be able to help him, but we need your help. So frankly, you can go to the hswa.org, and you can reserve a copy of the Life in a Year of Sweetisms book, which is our offer to you in exchange for donations of $25 or more. Once we get 2,000 of those reservations, then we're going to ship the books. We're going to pull the name out of the donors' hats, or out of the a name out of the donor hat, and the winner is gonna get themselves and one airfare included, all expense paid trip, 7 days, 6 nights in Alaska with Scooty Wells, the guy that saved my life. And trust me, if you win this, it'll feel like he saved yours. You're going to have a whole new outlook on life if you go to Alaska with Scooty Wells. I don't know if I'll be able to make it there, but here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, as this thing grows, we want to be able to blaze the trails and pave the way for people in my condition to be able to do adventurous activities. So that's what the Git Bizzy Livin Project 55 is about. We want to do 55 months in a row of at least one epic adventure every single month. And so we're inviting you to be there with us. All you got to do is tune in every Thursday and spread the word, and we'll do the rest, and help us practice, and hopefully we'll hear back from Greg. We've been super excited about getting him on. And he's got a great way to spin into what we're trying to do here with the Git Bizzy Livin Project. And
hopefully we can get his sound cleared up, because he has a lot of interesting things to say. Before we move on from Schaefer, I just wanted to mention that Lori clarified what that little guy is dealing with. And
spastic diplegia cerebral palsy.
Cerebral palsy is kind of like the umbrella term for what he's dealing with. And it's just not so easy for him to do the things that most kids can do. And she says here that he was gifted with this adaptive bike. And both Swede and I know, and anybody who watched this show in the Grand Canyon episode knows how that can change somebody's life.
Yeah. Oh man, sorry, I get kind of choked up. I'm telling you, man, I'm such a softie since I got injured, and I've had to lay on my back and stare at the ceiling for hours at a time. Like, I've turned into such a softie, and I've actually learned the power of crying and learned to recognize how much of a relief it is. It's a human gift. All animals have ways of releasing their emotions. It's a way of balancing your chemicals in your head. And I've learned that since I've started to focus inward more, that crying is actually really good for you. It feels good if you know how to do it. I don't do it on purpose. I certainly don't want to do it in public on purpose, but I'm starting to learn not to resist it. Like, I wasn't allowed to cry in my house. Like, Grams wasn't home, but if she was, she'd slap me. And if she wasn't home, sometimes she'd still slap me. I'd be playing with Legos in my room by myself at the house. And I swear if I started crying, she'd slap me from across the city.
I think that, our age and older people kind of dealt with that machismo way of being raised. And luckily, I think that the young people are being raised a bit differently. And I'm hoping that will create a better world as we move forward, where we have more empathetic men who are willing to show their emotions. So
I highly recommend, fellas, that you learn to let it out. And I got to be honest, I don't know how many times I cried before I got injured. It wasn't many. Even when I was really super happy, I wouldn't cry. And it's not hard to make me super happy. Scooty Wells in the house said, and you're coming up as well. Who you fooling? Man, the goal is to do unto others as you would have others do unto you. And I truly believe, especially after the time I spent looking at stem cells on the way to Dallas, on the way home from Dallas, I truly believe that this can make the difference with humans. We're up against robots now. If we don't get smart and start learning how to survive, we're doomed.
I
So
don't know. I don't know how smart these robots are. I think that people definitely do need to get smarter, because I think that they so easily accept information. We all so easily accept information these days that comes at us through our phones. And a lot of it is going to be generated by robots who are just taking what we say and regurgitating it back to us. And we better hope they're doing a good job, because we're accepting it at face value. That's the only thing I'm really scared about, is like this game of telephone. You know, you remember that
yeah,
game
yeah,
where you start off saying, I like Christmas trees. And at the end, it's like Bobby has 5 brothers, and that's honestly what it's going to be. Have you seen that movie, Idiocracy?
no,
Oh, goodness. Everybody
idiocracy.
must everybody must watch this. It's now a classic. It's an accidental classic. It's where
Really?
the most mediocre man on earth gets frozen by the military for 500 years or something. And when he wakes up, everyone is so dumb. And he's the smartest man on the planet. And he's expected to save everyone.
Oh, dang. Was he resurrected?
Yeah, he was accidentally woken up way in the future. And I think he was only supposed to be frozen for a year, and he ended up like 500 years in the future. And
They
he
forgot
was
about him.
yeah, they did. And then, there's so much about that movie that actually resonates in today's life. So
All right,
I
idiocracy.
highly recommend. Yeah, I highly recommend watching that. We're going to test Greg's sound again, and we're going to see how it goes.
Please do, but I want to say, hey, hey, girl, hey, Joe Beth. Say what's up, D Rex. Joe Beth is in that.
Oh, hello. Hi, Joe Beth.
Come on
Okay,
in, Greg.
Greg,
How we
say
doing,
hello.
brother?
I'm still having some
Well-
difficulty hearing you guys. How about you?
Oh man, I'm still hearing that click.
Yeah.
There's
Okay,
still a
listen,
click with your
we're on
audio.
this together. We are learning as we go, Greg, and this is just going to teach us that we need to sound check our guests before we have a show with them.
Yeah.
We're trying to stay light on our feet here, buddy.
I think that it's good enough, because what we want to do is we want to hear what Greg has to say. And I think we can deal with a little bit of clicking.
Good. I'm glad that you feel that way. So then, without further ado, let's get down to business. Welcome back, Greg. You want to tell our audience a little bit about yourself? Like, how many baby daddies you got? I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let's start with this, because you know what? You might not know this, Swede, but Greg actually grew up on Lake Erie, just like us.
Oh, that's why you were reciting Dobbins' war history
right.
on the lake.
Perry's Monument, baby, on the Put in Bay.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's why I'm going to go ahead and show this.
Hooray!
Because yeah, he grew up on Lake Erie. Greg, why don't you tell us a little bit about where you started, how your childhood began? Because I feel like there's so much about your story that requires all these little steps of your life, and the audience is just going to have to trust us that all of this is necessary in order to get to the heart of why we had you on here.
And we have a whopper coming, boys and girls. So Greg, lay it on him.
So I lost all audio for a moment.
Now you sound good.
Do I sound better now?
Yeah.
Bam.
Okay,
right.
so all I was saying is, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you grew up on Lake Erie?
Yeah. So when everybody else was doing weekend parties and junior high school and high school, my parents had the same camp spot at the same campground on the Huron River near Lake Erie for about 40 years. They actually just recently gave it up. And I was the kid that was always, I would pick night crawlers out of the cornfields nearby so I could earn gas, sell them to the fishermen so I could get gas money for a little john boat that I ran around on the lake up there. And
Nice.
one of my mom's favorite stories is that the guys would come by the camp. When I was 10 years old, I could really drive a boat because everybody let the kids drive the boat, right? So, but I was so good at it that the guys, I wasn't old enough to drive a car, so I couldn't get in a truck and back a trailer down the boat ramp, but the guys could come and hand me the keys to their, whatever at the time the boats cost, $30,000-$40,000 boat, which was probably way more than the vehicle ever was, would hand me the keys to the boat, and I would drive the boat around to the boat ramp and load it on the trailer while the owner was, backing the trailer down to the boat ramp.
You lucky guy.
Yeah, so that's how I kind of learned how to drive boats, was doing that. My mom would always, freak out because, here's the guys coming by the campsite handing me the keys to their very expensive toy, and I'm going to one that's, driving around to the boat ramp. She would have rather me drive the truck than the boat for sure.
Yeah, because that's a liability right there. You said you were 10?
Yeah, I was 10 at the time when I started
That's
doing
funny.
that.
Nice.
Yeah, and if anybody knows a 10-year-old, that's not what you do with 10-year-old. So,
Yeah,
but that's kind of funny. I don't think that we didn't introduce you properly because the sound was an issue, but you're actually a yacht salesman now. So do you feel like your early upbringing around boats helped bring you to where you are today?
Yeah, for sure. I veered a long way away from that for a long time. A lifetime ago.
Yeah, that's actually that's what I want to hear about. I want to hear about all that veering, because I think what's interesting about you is how you are so willing to veer.
Well, sometimes you gotta roll with the punches. Most of the time that was because I was being pushed in another direction, not because I was wanting to.
Yeah, but sometimes people get pushed and they just sit and they fear, and I think what's interesting about you is that it doesn't seem to be a whole lot of fear when you get pushed. So let's just start at the beginning. So you were on Lake Erie, did a lot of camping and boating, but then what was your teenage years, or the teenage years like?
Well, the teenage years were that, so working at local various jobs of, cashier at Red Lobsters, and, just getting through high school kind of jobs, and going to the campgrounds on the weekends. That was the big thing. Anytime I could get away, that was I would go, because you had access to boats and skiing and the lake and fishing, and, what sucks about that? Or you could stay home and hang out in the neighborhood. Going to the campgrounds is always more
That's
fun.
the only option I had, bro. There was no.
Yeah. I actually hung out in a junkyard because that's what I had. So to us, that sounds really bougie. It sounds really cool and exciting. But that sort of stuff doesn't happen.
High horse.
No. I think it sounds awesome. But that sort of stuff doesn't happen on its own. So obviously your parents were outdoors people.
Yeah, my dad always had a boat growing up, and camping was always their thing. Lots of friends, and and where they were at, it was camping people are always they're always a little off. They have legends and stories, and of course campfires. Stories around the campfire. And we had a local sea monster down there. We always call it Chloe, and I'm sure the guys would have a few, beers at night around the campfire, and they're standing along the river's edge, hollering Chloe, and of course then it turned into buying. I don't know if you guys remember back in the day when you could get those 6 and 8 foot blow up Godzillas.
Yeah.
Then they're putting that guy, and there's Chloe on water skis that you could tow behind a boat, and it just grew from there. So all kinds of fun stories.
Was Chloe a real thing? I need to know, because I was totally into the Loch Ness Monster stories when I was young. Was Chloe real?
I don't know. I don't know where the name Chloe came from. If that was part of, I don't know how that developed, but down at the campgrounds, it was sure real because everybody was into it. It's almost like Santa Claus.
Yeah. Well, everybody likes a good camp story, but you were telling me earlier that high school, it wasn't like you were a super academic or anything. You were just a average high school goer. In fact, you were saying not even average. Like, how did that go?
Yeah, that was one. My mom drugged me through high school. I remember sitting at the dinner table for hours, stretched over top of a seat, having, ADHD and anything else that goes along with that back then, and really struggling with high school because junior high and high school was tough for me because I was not an academic. It had no level of interest to me. my dad always taught me to work with my hands and, you know, to do things on the weekends and fix things. That's the kind of guy he was in woodworking. You know, proud member of a major of actual, you know, you do have to take major for English in high school, major for other things. And I majored in woodworking also, just because it was one of the things I loved. I loved to work with my hands. I just took it all 4 years. So it happened to be a major, you know, in my life. But
Picking up skills.
That's one of the best skills I think you can pick up. If you can
It's
take
funny.
woodworking in school.
well, and
You'll
it's
see.
paid off. It's paid off for me. You know, I'm still a firm believer. I think college education is wasted on a lot of kids these days. They go to college without a focus, and they'll go take, you know, whatever business administration or marketing, and it's not in a detailed field, and they come out with a huge amount of debt and no real focus, and they wind up going to be somebody's secretary somewhere, you know, instead of having a successful career path. And so, you know, I got out of high school and went into the military, and as a cop in the military, so that gave me no real life application. I want to be a cop elsewhere, but it was fun while I was in. You know, that working with my hands has always served me well through my life.
So, you know, you'll notice in our 3 crucial questions concepts over there that it's the same kind of guy. D Rex was mentioning the spirit, you know, because for those of you that haven't been to the Git Bizzy Livin podcast in the past, you know, D Rex is the talent here. And she has this wonderful way of meeting complete strangers and pulling out, you know, some very interesting angles out of their stories. You know, a lot of times D-Rex has no idea who she's meeting, and then she chats with them, and it's always rave reviews. Greg, you're one of the few people that I haven't talked to before I get on the show with you after they've talked to her, and they're always like, holy hell, man, where'd you get her at?
Yeah.
She's the hardest person on the planet to compliment too, man. Earlier today she was telling me, you know, like her takeaways from your guys' conversation. And I was like, man, I was getting off the interstate and my heart was beating. I was like, man, this sounds awesome. I was like, girl, we need to have you just say all that in the beginning of every show, man. That was magical. I felt like Morgan Freeman was just like more narrating my life, telling me, listening about you. She's like, yeah, man. Like, so, but then, you know, cause I was looking forward to hearing some things about our common characteristics. And man, so far we're like 0 for 4.
No, that's not. Well, I mean, that's not true because I sat next to Swede in high school. You might not know this, Greg, but we went to high school together.
Really?
And he was he was a great student until he decided to be a lackluster student. So he did have that. He barely made it. He squeaked out. He squeaked out of high school.
Well, he does have that same adventure bug, right? So, and that's what always is. You know, I'm the you know, in my family, I'm the one that got out of Ohio and, you know, went into the military and went to Germany and traveled the world and always trying to do, like you said, new jobs and not afraid to pivot. You know, always loved the change and things going on. So, you know, that's definitely what Swede has going on, man. That's that Git Bizzy Livin attitude.
Absolutely.
You know, and go ahead.
Well, I actually always love it. Cut me off any chance you get, man. Otherwise, I'll keep going.
Okay, because I think that what's funny is that out of the Air Force, you returned back to Ohio. You want to tell people what you did when you returned back to Ohio?
Yeah. Shocked I was. You said that.
As my get by, trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I really grew up. I went and moved in with my sister and brother-in-law. And he worked at a dairy factory, and I went and worked at this dairy factory. And after they bottled the milk, I would stack it and then load trucks with milk afterwards. So I was in sorts of milkman, you know. Yeah, I would work. I would sit there and sling gallons of milk all day long. That was my job.
So that's a kind of a crazy pivot, don't you think?
Yeah. It was you know, up you know how it is up in Ohio. Lots of factory work, union positions available, and you kind of get in by knowing somebody. And so yeah, my brother-in-law got me the hookup, and granted it was not the, it wasn't the top of the totem pole, but it was a good entry level position, solid, good pay, and just a lot of fun, to go do. Because I worked these crazy hours. One of the shifts I would work would be like I think it was from 2 or 3 in the morning is when you started, and then you'd work until 8 or 9 in the morning. But then
Is that because it was so hot in this afternoons? They'd rather you work early morning than late afternoon.
No, that's when all the trucks had to be loaded, so that way they could be on the road delivering milk in the morning.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so you had to load all the trucks and fill all the bills and orders, and then but then I had off, and then I could go golfing in the afternoon and go run around and goof off, and then go to bed early, get ready for the next day.
See, and you know what? That doesn't sound bad. It doesn't sound bad at all. But
it sounds great to me. I'm sorry. I love so here's what I'm picking up from you, man. So, it takes a spirit. It takes a drive. It takes a force that's unexplainable for you to just decide to move to another thing and then completely change what your daily routine could consist of with utter fearlessness, just to keep on going to something different if it feels better and you're willing to try it out. It sounds to me like I personally have put down many things in my life. I pick them up fearlessly and I put them right back down fearlessly. Most of the steps that I've taken in my life have been lateral, but along the way I picked up skills and I was able to, I was traveling by the time I was 40, so I don't regret not ever staying with one thing. What's the longest, Greg, that you can recall in your life that you've ever focused on one avenue? Or probably maybe you've never been singularly focused. I've almost always had multiple income streams, but in your life, do you recall which has been like the one that you stayed with the longest, and why?
For sure, it's the current one. Being in boats. I didn't always sell yachts when I started. I was selling trailer boats, but selling boats for sure is. I've been doing this 26 years now, so that almost seems like a lifetime. But I had, like you said, I tried different things along the path, and this one was just a godsend in which I could, because it was like throwing the rabbit in the briar patch. Once I got into boating, I was like, well, that's pretty cool. I get to drive boats around and put people on the water, make them happy, and it's a win for everybody, and I make a good living at it. So I mean, what sucks about that, And as my careers progress, I went from trailer boats to medium-sized boats, and if I could tell this another quick funny story is, I remember when I got to Destin, by way of a couple of boating career hops, changing companies.
I love it.
I started working for a company here, and they just assumed that I could drive the big boats, right? I hadn't driven anything bigger than probably 26 feet. And so there's this 50-footer that needs to be moved to a boat show. And I'm like, they said, they hand me the keys, are literally like, you can get this at the boat show, right? By following the other guys. Sure, I can. No problem. I didn't hesitate, right? So I've been around them enough. I know the process. I haven't physically driven one myself. And so
that's large, 50 feet.
Yeah, it was a good sized boat. And so I'm following the other guys out of the channel and look down at my fuel gauge, and it is on empty, bro. It is like so I have to turn around, never have docked one, because I was expecting to follow the other guys to the dock where there would be help to catch lines. No, I had to turn around to the fuel dock and back into slip that took me like 5 tries to get into, because I had never done it before. And but then I fueled up. Long story short, I'm pulling back out, going underneath the Destin Bridge, and I'm calling my dad. And I'm like, Dad, you wouldn't believe what I'm doing now. This is crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is crazy.
So, Greg, how much is a boat like that worth? Like, what kind of liability were you looking at if you wrecked that boat?
Yeah, even back then, I mean, that was well over $1 million boat.
Yikes.
That's a lot to trust somebody with. I've never been trusted with $1 million, although I would gladly welcome the opportunity.
Well, and you would expect some fool like me to step up and go, no, I am not capable of driving that, right? I've never done it before, but I should have used better with, but no, I was there. But I've always been able to handle myself behind boats, and I just figured I had this, no problem.
So,
Seemed like
Greg,
you
I
had
just
your,
want
you
to
know, right.
I want to
I was
back
just
up
going to
for a
invite
second.
you. I apologize, D Rex. I was just going to invite you to back up and say what you had to say. I was getting the signal, and we're
Okay.
just we're not on the same.
Yeah, because I don't feel like we're finishing telling the story of how many times Greg has actually jumped ship and why. And I
Yeah.
think that that's really the theme of this show is like jumping ship. Like, is it an okay thing to do? And if you're scared to do it, should you be? Should you not be? Does it always work out? Does it never work out? Like, he has a lot of experience with this. So let's go from milk bottler to you had an opportunity to move to the South and you started your own business there. And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that was also just I got to the South, and the first thing I did is I jumped into the insurance business. I was literally just looking for something to do. Someone suggested that the insurance business would be a good career move. I tried it out,
So yes.
and you could find happiness with anything if you put your heart to it. But I was doing that for a while, and at the time, I had met who was to become my wife at the time, and she was in this publishing business. She ran this little digest-sized real estate book. You see them in outside all the realtors' offices. And anyhow, it was she was just an employee. It was poorly managed, and so she and I just got talking and started dating, and we came up with this concept to start our own advertising company, our own publishing company, and to do a better version of this real estate book, in which we did. We started a publication, and that turned into a really fairly successful advertising and publishing company. Again, I was just too young and too stupid to know what to do with the money at the time. They say that finances are one of the number one reasons why small businesses fail. Well, yeah, that was me. I didn't know how to manage finances. I started robbing Peter to pay Paul, and not budgeting correctly. And so, long story short, after about probably a good solid 8 or 9 year run or better, I wound up letting that business go because I just couldn't figure out how to financially get myself back online, even though we had great revenue streams.
So that's kind of you've already been through a lot, whether it's like Air Force, milk bottling, failed business.
Insurance.
So yeah, insurance. Like, so what do you do after your small business fails? Like how do you feel? What are the steps to go to your next pivot?
Well, that was one of the things at the time is we were living modestly, and I was given an opportunity just to sit back for a minute and to catch my breath. And it's not like I took a year off or anything, but again, my wife at the time said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And my next door neighbor at the time, he sold boats for the local boat dealership. And I thought, well, man, Lee next door, he's got it figured out. That'd be a fun job. And so a fella who went to my church owned a different boat dealership in town. I went to him, had a conversation, and he, of course, Murphy's Law, he says, man, we got a salesman that's getting ready to retire, and we could use somebody to kind of step in his place. And so old Captain Dave was
nice
in the business, and he kind of took me under his wing and showed me the ropes of different things and how to really get in the boat sales game and how to treat people. And the dealership there, which is still in business now at the time, Longshore Boats up there in Charleston, South Carolina, and I still know those people, and they're still great friends. I was really their only salesperson besides one of the owners for a number of years, and it was a great run. I loved it. It was
I didn't want to interrupt you, but that's a kind of a strange coincidence, don't you think? That it was such kismet. Like, do you believe in coincidences?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I definitely believe there's a higher calling, maybe coincidences, maybe it's other things affecting your life. But yeah, for sure, there's definitely a fit for where things happen in life.
Because sometimes I feel like coincidences are just too they're too coincidental, you know? And I feel like that's one of those moments where it turns you back toward boats. And this is really, no pun intended, but steered your life up to this point, you know, moving up the boat ranks. Now you're selling yachts. And not only that, we're hoping that you will tell us about your project that you've been working on for many years and how you got into that, how you got the idea for that.
Yeah, anybody who knows me and is close to me knows that I have this saga of a story
You know
about
what? Hold that
myself.
note, saga, because look at this right here. I want to get at this. So we're gonna end up at that a segue into saga. Well, if you look back in the comments, my man Scooty Wells wants to say he got DeVito'd. Now, next time we get Scooty Wells on, which by the way, we got to get Scooty Wells back, we got to get JFT back. But Scooty Wells is going to tell you guys a story about getting DeVito'd. And I want to say hello to the Stein brothers. I met these guys recently, and they have an invitation to the path that we're trying to pave here. Scooty Wells and I, JFT, anybody that's willing to put their hand in the pile are part of the Git Bizzy Livin project, you know. And these Stein brothers are going to be people that we really want to focus on helping. We got JFT is in the house. We've got a hell yeah. KCP, if you guys don't know Kevin Christopher Price, he's the author and co-star of our intro song, I Work For This by Strange Tang. And so you'll notice, did you see this here? D Rex, Jerry says, tell them about the boat build. So there we are. The saga continues.
Yeah, I mean, he is chomping at the bit for Greg to tell this story, and so am I. But I really feel like all of the things that you told us really set the tone for like who you are and what you're willing to do to make your life interesting.
Well, the boat is part of the dream, right? And that's why all these sailing YouTube video people are so successful, because there is a big segment of the population out there that wants to, you know, untie the lines and go sail the world on a boat that they fixed up from scratch. And yeah, so yeah, it's a fun, popular story, especially now at the time with all the YouTubers out there doing it. But even before then, you know, I've been doing this a long time, and I have been helping other people get into their dream of boating and going out adventuring. Mm-hmm. And so I've been pining at this for most of my career to do this. And, you know, I probably should have gone about it a different way, but at the time it seemed right. But I bought this old sailboat from a guy that I had a click with, a kindred spirit with, and we went and looked at the boat. We hit it off. The boat was amazing. He did some very cool things to the boat that makes it very unique. And it's a 1976 old. And they call it, it's a 52-foot boat. It's about 60 feet overall length.
Got any pics of it, Greg, that you could text me, just kind of, or in thought? You know, not that I want to.
Yeah, I think I texted them down the road. Did you get the pictures I sent you, or that link?
No, never came through.
Okay, go ahead. I would love to see this. I got it. Go ahead and tell the story. I'll pull up his website. Go ahead.
Okay.
Anyhow, so I started out, you know, full of enthusiasm, of course, like anybody would. Now, this is in September of 2018 is when I started this project, and wound up just redoing everything. I didn't know where to stop. You know, the boat needed so much work, and I'm a perfectionist when it comes to things, and so instead of there's an old saying that perfection is the enemy of good enough, right? Mm-hmm, and mm-hmm. I should have made it good enough and gone sailing. I have literally sold boats to people who have done great adventures around the world and come back and have sold their boat, and I'm still working on mine. So, but I have run into just, you know, rot on the boat that I've had to remove, you know, large sections of the boat off the boat. Like most people wouldn't even fathom doing. Like I removed 24 square feet of fiberglass off the keel, removed it. It was gone. There's a hole in my boat, 24 square feet big. And, you know, and then replaced it all. So yeah, that's when we actually picked it up. That's one of the first ones there that we picked it up with. That's Tani, my fiance, and JT, and Carpo there, the guy in the background. He's the guy that's helped me and still has been helping me, digging in, man, helping me do this thing. Carpo's there all the time, So Carpo's got a permanent room made for him on the sailboat called Carpo's Cabin. He's going to have his own space whenever he wants it. But so the dream is, to finish this thing, and we're close. I finally, it's sweet if you dig into my Facebook, there's been some somewhat more recent pictures of the boat where it's actually floating in the water with the mast on. We got some sexy up and down lighting, good blue lights going on.
If you don't, as long as you don't mind me scrolling through in front of people, I'll go ahead and bring it up, and you can point me in that direction. Yeah, because we want the audience to see what you got going on.
Okay, so actually, I have the link to the photos here.
Okay,
the photos that he sent, and so I'm going to bring these up. I think what I'm looking at is your stream here. So I need to share this. So go ahead and just chat a little bit longer about your boat repairs. It sounds like that movie, The Money Pit. Was it kind of like that?
I'll never forget when Jerry told me he was going to embark on that with you. I was like, oh, this is going to be good.
You wouldn't believe. I thought it was going to take a year and X number of dollars. I didn't want to say what I thought it was going to take because, embarrassingly enough, it's been significantly more than that. And of course, now over 4.5 years later, but part of it is I had to take 2 months off of it just recently. That's when we first got it in the boatyard right there. That's the mast just removed and the old paint. You can see the bottom paint is partially off and partially on there. You can see there's no windows of the boat. See all the wooden plywood on the side? We removed all the windows on the boat up on the top of the cabin.
Oh, okay. I see.
That's a big piece of furniture you bought there.
Yikes.
Yeah, so that's one of the many, many blisters. And that one's probably about a foot around of the blisters I've had to grind out of the boat.
What is that? What is that? A blister? Is that? I don't get it.
That's where water gets behind the fiberglass and starts to peel away from the inside out. So it starts peeling away the fiberglass. It uses the salt water creates a special little chemical compound behind there, but that chemical reaction behind it, to keep it simple, creates gas, and the gas pushes on the fiberglass, and it creates this what it looks like a blister from when you see it. And you have to grind it out, fill it back full of new fiberglass, and re-smooth it all back out.
That sounds kind of like a boat cancer. Is that correct?
That's exactly what that is. It's a boat cancer for sure. And it had a lot of it. And so that's the 24 square feet. So that space right there is 12 feet long, or 12 feet long by 2 feet wide. And that's the lead that you can see in my keel behind that gray stuff. There's no fiberglass there. That's the lead. And most people would never dream of taking their fiberglass off and removing it like that. But it was having a big issue that I don't need to go into. But there was a big issue behind. All that black there is all oil that was leaking down between the lead and the fiberglass from the engine that was so bad leaking into it.
Ooh, this is like the money pit. I can imagine how much this costs.
That's my rudder right there that you can see, all the rot in the rudder that actually steers the boat. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
So we had to cut that off and rebuild all that. Yeah, and that's the rudder. That's all the rudder redone. Yeah. Right there.
Is that kind of a bondo, like boat bondo?
Exactly. It's a fairy material called all fair, and it doesn't absorb moisture, and it helps you sand it down and shape it, and then you paint back over top of that with your bottom paint. Oh,
I don't know what this is, but it looks terrible. I don't want any part of it.
It's my bilge. It's where all the oil is leaking into and delaminating things inside there. Yeah, it's
oh gosh.
It's part of the nasty of the boat that I'm redoing. But she's all nice, white, and pretty now. That's the bilge. That in the bottom there is all oil that's dripping down inside there from that space that you're looking at is where my engine was. I had to pull the engine out and rebuild it.
This is making my heart hurt.
Yeah.
That's the engine coming out of the hole there. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my goodness. Oh goodness. Oh, I know those.
Yeah. So that's the hole there behind me, and the engine's up above my head being lifted out right now.
So let me ask you, Greg. So we like to try to help other people understand why we choose the guests that we choose and what the message here is, and the wonderful thing about this is something that people, when they see that you're working hard on a boat, right? And it's somewhat out of reach for a lot of people in their minds for them to ever even have to worry about having a boat. Like it's something that only happens to the blessed few. Like you have this very relatable path. You just kept working. You kept taking advantage of opportunity when it knocked. And now here you are. You've pivoted. You've jumped ship. You've swam back on. You've done your thing. And now you have just as many problems as the next person with your recent project, but they're just as real to you and as serious, and you just keep on pushing along, you know. And the purpose of the Git Bizzy Livin project, what we want to try to relate to people on is the spirit of what it takes to live a purposeful, deliberate, intentional life. Like have a purpose, be deliberate about it, and intend on getting what you want. You know, you were talking earlier about faith and such. It's you got to believe first of all. If you start out believing and you just follow the belief towards whatever it takes and be willing to work hard, you know, we can all, maybe not all want a boat, but it's within reach. That's the beautiful thing about this country. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
think about that.
That is the fact. So the lesson here is that, yes, I have wanted to give up on this boat many times. And because I can see, I know where this boat can take me. I know the lifestyle it can give me, the dream that I can fulfill with it. And now it's kind of, there's been times I wanted to give up. And in fact, during COVID, I did give up on it for about a year. I never went to the boat. Still that monkey on my back. Because we finally splashed in the water, the masts are standing up. I've got a renewed fever for it now. But yes, I've had to get busy living with this damn boat. Because, you know what? If I don't, I'm not going to let this thing beat me. I am going to get this thing finished. And there will be a time that I know that those sails are going to be hoist. That water is going to be splashing over the rail. And you will not be able to wipe the damn smile off my face.
Yes.
You know, let's show I want to show some progress, because those pictures at first were kind of heartbreaking. And I'd like to show some more updated pictures where it's starting to really look like refurbished and good.
Yeah,
because,
so that's a little Boston whaler. That's my dinghy right there. And the couple previous pictures, that's where we're actually putting new paint on. So you can see that's all nice.
I told you
Can't
you would
get
not be
through
able
one
to say
podcast.
No, I told him, I said, you're not going to be able to say that's my dinghy in front of Sweden, not having
We can't get through one podcast without D Rex bringing up something that has to do with, what is it?
What, the dinghy? What are you talking
about? She just likes saying dinghy.
Nah, but look at this. Look at the progress. I think that what we're seeing here is that this is one thing that he's actually not jumping ship on, and which is kind of is that irony? I don't know. I'm not good with irony. It's the point.
But she's an irony bro.
But yeah, it's really great to see this.
Right there. Yeah.
Wow.
Looking good. That's us rolling the bottom paint on. That gray underneath there.
Oh man, that makes me want to play my saxophone.
Yeah, baby.
That was a cool day right there, man. All the buddies got in the boatyard and helped me lay that bottom paint on there, and yeah, I kept the old classic flag booth. Look at that new sexy teak bow pulpit, man. That's
yes.
Beautiful.
I love when you use words like sexy. Hey, I got to be honest. Me and D Rex are working hard on other things, and we're working on this too, trying to get better at it. And we try to tell our audience that we're going to try to we want to keep the show at an hour so that people don't feel bad for bouncing on us. So our vow to them is to try to keep it an hour. But I got to be honest. I'm cruising here. I'm loving this. As long as you guys are willing to keep on cruising a little bit longer, I want to hear the rest.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to cut anything off that is, not told all the way.
Look at that. Talk to us about this.
Yeah, so that's when it just got in the water right there, and we had just the mast. I still had work to do. I had the lights to put on, a lot of rigging to put on. So the boat was in the water for 2 months. That you saw an earlier photo where I was kind of standing there on the bow of it, but it didn't have the masts on. So this is the weekend that we finally stood the masts up, and it's finally. They're, sailboaters call them sticks. We finally got the sticks on after 4 years of them being off, and it's finally looking like a sailboat again.
This picture actually gives me goosebumps because
me too.
Yeah, I see your dream coming to fruition here.
Yeah. So what's interesting is the inside is a train wreck, and I have wires going all over the place. But all these blue LED lights, I have had them all mounted on, and by God, I took a battery out that day and ran wires all over the cockpit to the battery post so I can get those blue lights on those masts that day.
Yes.
Yeah,
Love
baby,
it.
that was
Look at what we got here. Look.
Oh yeah.
Look, you're
Yeah,
me and your yacht match, bro. Like, or your
yeah.
sailboat, we match. I love it.
Yeah,
I'm
that
telling
was
you, there's a lot of similarities between you guys, and I swear, if you had just time to hang out, you would find so many more.
Oh, we shall. And speaking of similarities, I love this. I love how this is all coming together. So we want to, first of all, thanks, Greg, and we're going to keep cruising with your story. But I do want to say we got coming up. I think just a very befitting guest coming up in a couple weeks, who also has gotten busy living in many ways and pivoted many times in his life, and has ultimately found working with boats and selling boats. And he's a little bit younger in the process of life than you are compared to you, and also in the process of boat selling. But it's kind of like, look, if you see the big picture of what can be possible, then now we're going to check in with somebody that's kind of chugging along, that you've already validated their efforts. And we're like, look, ladies and gentlemen, things are possible. Here's where Greg has been able to get to. And now here's somebody that's on the way there. And I promise you, once we get Jigga J Calcut on this bad boy, and you see the hits that he's taken in his life, and it still keeps on getting hit and getting back up, and now he's on your pathway. I think what we're starting to accomplish here is building belief in our community. You know, as this thing grows, we want more and more people to grow onto this Git Bizzy Livin Project 55 with us. At this point right now, we're on month number 8. We got 47 more to go. This month, May, will be at month number 9. And so month number 9 in May. But once we, you know, as this thing grows and gets momentum, we want to see more and more of you guys on these epic adventures with us. So Greg, that picture, it like seriously gave me goosebumps too, D Rex. Like, wow. So where is this boat now?
You know what? Hold on a second. You know what this deserves?
That's right. Don't give up the ship, baby. That's exactly right.
Hell no.
So go on. What did you ask? I'm sorry. I had to play it.
So yeah, just pick up from there, Greg. So where's that boat at now, actually?
So it's still in Pensacola, where it's been the whole time. And the reason why I keep it over there, which is about 2+ hours from my house, is because being in the boatyard that long, well, you get to make friends. And one of the contractors that I have to give a shout out to, Brandon Hall with Perdido Sailor, he has just stood by my side. And if without him, this boat would not be where it's at today. I am in over my head on this thing. And this guy knows everything about everything when it comes to boats. And so he's been, I don't mind digging in and doing the labor, but he's been a lot of the brains behind the project about how to paint it with the right chemicals and when to do certain things, and how, you know, just the precision things. And so I've been staying there because of his support. He's been invaluable. But there's going to be a time in the near future that, you know, I'm hoping this summer, maybe this fall, we'll be able to bring the boat from Pensacola over closer to the house here in Panama City.
Speaking of times in the near future, I would like to think that there's going to be a time in all of our near futures where we can afford to get a boat. And then when we do, do we contact you at Dennison Yachting? Is that, I mean, you guys see the logo up here on the screen there. Tell us a little bit about that. How did you get hooked up there? So it's kind of like you're into an eagle's nest now. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so I had, like I said, I kind of mentioned how I got into selling boats when I was young, and just like anything, as you grow with your career throughout, the boats that I started selling kept getting a little bigger, and at a certain point, I had a choice to make, kind of to stick with the 26 and 30 footers, or I could make a jump up to the yachts, and I had an opportunity to do that, and that kind of led me down a couple different paths of working for another yacht brokerage company, and then I opened up my own yacht brokerage company, and then I did that with a partner. I sold my half out to him, and at that point I jumped on board with Dennison Yachting, and now I'm the regional manager here for the Gulf of Mexico for Bob Dennison, and
wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I still sell. You know, I went and sold a 35-foot center console boat this past weekend. But then, I got back to the house and I'm on the phone with my client who's looking to buy a 112 footer. So, I get a little bit of a range there. I always try to up my game again, trying to sell. I'd love every boat to be a 112 footer, but it doesn't work out that way. But yeah, so if you guys are looking for a boat, I can certainly help you out with pretty much anything. I'm well versed in it, so give me a shout.
Count on it.
Well, we do have a question for you from Scooty Wells. He wants to know what makes a yacht a yacht. Is it length, girth, tonnage?
Yeah, so there's no really official designator there. Over 26 feet, the Coast Guard loses a designation for the capacity plate on the boat, and then once you get up to, most people would probably consider a yacht, upper 30s to 40 footers. Once I got people buying a 39-foot motor yacht right now, so in that range would be considered a yacht. Jerry owned a baby yacht one time. He had a little 34-footer we called the baby yacht.
Oh, baby yacht. It's like, you're so cute with your little jewelry. So let's back it up real quick. I wanted to say real quick, sorry, D Rex. Cassandra said you have to work hard. No, she first said you have to work hard. Like, yeah. She says, yeah, duh. Like, that is an issue. There's people that think you don't have to work hard. You just come to America and everything gets given to you. Like Uncle Sam just starts passing out, privileges. Like, all you gotta do is get to America, and then that's all it takes. That's kind of funny that people think that. So you'll notice one of our 3 crucial questions that I said Uncle Sam. We've talked about the ego trips that it takes to have the courage to put yourself into a project where you're going to try to fix up a boat. And it takes some courage, just like it takes courage to go out and get what you want. Sometimes you have to put down the job that you have and the security that came with it in order to get to something else. Sometimes you have to jump into the water in order to get to the other side of the river. You have to let go of the one side of the pool in order to swim to the other side. And there's some swimming in there that, you don't have security during that period, And I got to a point a few years back where I was not acknowledging properly the types of securities you get living in a great country like this. I actually saw D Rex for the first time in 20 years as I was jumping ship and leaving the United States. My daughter was in college. I felt very naively like I had enough of this place. I would probably come back when she was getting married, or if there was a major, to do, but I did not see a future for myself in this country. I was tired of the racism and the materialism and all the pressure and segmented community that I bounced out of this country. And I was traveling for a couple of years and got, injured, and that's what got me in this condition. But the ironic part for D Rex's irony and capacity is that I had no respect for what this country offers. And what it was like to be injured in another country was not pleasant, but thankfully, the U.S. Embassy was able to help me get back to the States. And since I've been back, I've been blessed with an opportunity, to reconvene with loved ones like D Rex. And I'm glad to see you, Greg. It's been a while since we've only kicked it a couple of times, and we were entertaining others as well as each other. So it's not like we became boys or anything. Like, me and Aunt rolled out like me and JFT have, but I'm really glad to have you on. I want to say thank you to Jerry for making the arrangement and getting us connected. And by the way, guys, if you're interested and you believe that you like what we're doing here at the Git Bizzy Livin Project 55 and you want to put your hand in the pile, hit us up at guest@thegitbuzylivin.com. And let us know, a little bit about what you feel you have going on in your life that contributes to the mission and the message of the Git Bizzy Livin project. Like I said earlier, it's about living a purposeful, deliberate, intentional life. And there was one more comment on here that I was trying to go back to that brought up a good question, but it doesn't seem like I'm finding it here. What I do enjoy most about your story, and I'm really actually very flattered, D Rex, that you think that Greg and I have some similarities, because he's obviously a standout guy, is that growing up on Lake Erie, do you think that weather had anything to do with your initiative to get the hell out of Dodge?
Yeah, for sure. I have to admit, I go back home and, love me some northern summers, but yeah, the winters definitely. It's fun to go see snow and get back out.
Yeah, D Rex was making a comment recently about, because I hadn't been back to Erie since I traveled before recently, and she was telling me about how there's actually people that believe that going up to the lake is like a beautiful vacation destination. After living in the Gulf of Mexico for most of my adult life, I just couldn't
Right.
fathom it, you know. But then I went home over New Year's this year. Home is Erie, funnily, because I didn't call it home for a long time. But I went there and got to take my girl around Presque Isle, and it is beautiful. It really is beautiful, you know. So, have you ever been to Erie, actually, Greg?
Erie, Pennsylvania, or
Yeah.
no, I guess I have been through, but I haven't been there to go visit and take in the sights.
I've heard a lot of people say that. What about you, D Rex? Oh, I've never stopped there, but I've been through on I-90.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's not really a stopping place. It should be. And I really could do an entire show on why Erie should be a stopping place.
Not
because I
could,
do
shall.
Yeah, and I have a great love for it and the people that I know that still live there who are doing great things. I can't wait to have them also on the show. I feel like we're running a bit over. Is there some questions you wanted to ask Swede before
Well,
we
actually, I do want to touch on something. I got a proposal for you, Greg. So me and Scooty Wells are plotting on the ultimate epic adventure for the Git Bizzy Livin Project 55. What we want to be able to do with the gears that we have turning in this entire thing. We've got the Help Swede Walk Again, which is the nonprofit organization. Our goal with that nonprofit is to bring stem cells to the living rooms of America and beyond. I recently was able to shake hands with one of the industry leaders and tell my story to a guy named Neil Riordan, who wrote the book on stem cells, literally the best-selling book in stem cell technology. He has one of the world's most successful clinics in Panama. And we've crossed paths at one of his conventions, and he knows my story, and looking forward to being an advocate for the industry. And so the Help Swede Walk Again organization is our way of generating revenues and gathering some resources and being able to point them revenues and resources in the direction of people that could use our help. And in order to do that, we want to raise awareness for that mission by helping people that are in my condition, but even less specific, people in any condition that have a desire to get busy living. So we want to be able to encourage them to tune into this podcast, help your mindset get set up so that you can believe in yourself, to have the ability to get busy living, and then have people such as yourself that are potentially resources for us to be able to put your hand in the pile and help people get busy living. So with that in mind, me and Scooty Wells have been talking about epic adventures, and we're talking about Alaska, and Jerry's also been talking about helping us get to Alaska. But imagine this. Imagine folks that are in my condition or worse, or better, but not just the able-bodied community, but the disabled community and people in these wheelchairs. We have very limited options when it comes to boating. And so what would it take, Greg, to be able to blaze that trail and facilitate a boat that has an easy on and off, or an accessible way for a large wheelchair like this to be able to get on it and go do some of these water recreation things? They'll get the wind in our face. What would it take, do you think, to set up something like that? Because it's not about can we, and it doesn't matter how much money it takes. It's about the willingness to do it, because money eventually will not be the obstacle. It's going to be the willingness and the people that want to put their hand in a pile and try to help us pave that way. So how complex would it be to have a boat that can handle that type of adventure?
I don't think very complex. There's a lot of commercial boats out there right now that handle scuba divers. They kind of have very flat surfaces for people to move tanks around and have multiple people having access to it. And even quite honestly, things as simple as pontoon boats, right? They're just nothing but a big flat structure. You could easily modify them to not have the big sofas and things on them, and have a little more firmer rails and supports on them. And have a nice ramp that would just get on and off, and so you can get some accessible chairs and things on them, and then have them be secured in somehow. I don't think it would be difficult at all.
Man, so that's amazing. Me and Jerry were just talking last night about that exact precise thing, about We can do Alaska in the summertime, and we can do scuba, doing all the amazing Alaskan adventures that Scooty Wells is going to help us tune into, and Jerry's already familiar with. And I believe you're familiar with Alaska as well, right? I mean, you've been up there with Jerry, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we were talking about Alaska in the summer, and then scuba diving somewhere in the tropics in the winter. And look, D Rex, that's what I was talking about. The camera gets dark for some reason.
Yeah, I saw you went into a cave there for a second.
It's weird, huh? So we would love to do that. This thing is, we're just getting started, bro. We're just getting started. But there will be a time in the future where folks that have obstacles and barriers in the way of them being able to get that wind in their face, whether it's going downhill skiing or whether it's going on a boat and getting out there and fishing, or even getting off the boat and scuba diving. My boy Boogie is a scuba diver. Scooty Wells is a massive scuba diver. Jerry's got scuba diving skills. You've got boating skills. D-Rex is an amazing inspiration. So if I can get her to help us get people out there, because anything she says, people will do. So
that's how Jerry and I met, we took scuba diving lessons together.
No way.
Yeah, that's how we met.
Do tell. Okay, we got to go here. We got to get this in here before we go. Come on, tell us about that.
Well, I mean, it really got much more than that to it. I was looking to take scuba diving lessons, and the local dive instructor said, "Hey," they actually said, "Hey, there's this cool cat you should get to know. He's wanting to do all these things and become a pilot and learn how to scuba dive. And you need to come meet him. His name is Jerry." And that was like, man, bam, that's all it took. It was two kindred spirit, and it's just like you and Jerry. You meet Jerry, nobody ever meets a stranger, right? It's just one of those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, got to give JFT credit, man. He's been helping us. He's been helping us line up guests. And he and I have several is the understatement of the century, but lots of common friends. So if you're one of the folks that Jerry has reached out to recently, and you're doing your research and you're checking out this show, by all means, we would love to have those of you that feel like you have a Git Bizzy Livin spirit, that you feel like your story may be relatable. Look, Greg, you've obviously worked your ass off. You've been willing to take the chances when they've confronted you, and you've found yourself a career that you love. There's folks that are further along and they're growing up and doing what they want to be when they grow up, spirit, and there are people that are just getting started. But we're here as this podcast to try to shine light on all steps along the way. And if you are struggling to learn how to get busy living, we recommend you start out at episode 1, and we're going to give you tips all along the way. So that I love to hear, people talk about meeting Jerry, because look, we've all had our moments, and this guy has such a enthusiastic and charming way about describing life. When he meets people, he lights up. He's a people person, just like we all are. So, not exactly the best way to leave it out there, was it, D-Rex?
Well, I just thought, I think that it's important to highlight the person that's not on this screen, who's actually giving us a lot of help right now by lining up interesting people to talk to. So thanks, Jerry.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to say thank you, especially to all the folks that we had show up today. I see Cassie's in the house. I got a couple Cassies in the house here today. Scooty Wells, thanks for coming. Jerry T, Lori, Tasha, all you guys. Thank you guys for being in the comments and showing up. If you haven't already, please go to the YouTube, make yourself a little Gmail account that goes to you, Mistiza, and subscribe and grow with us. Spread the word if you like what we're talking about. There will come a day when you might be the one that's on here telling your story, just like Greg has. Greg, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. I know you're busy.
My pleasure, man. Good seeing you.
I truly hope that people understand that if you believe, you can achieve, but it starts with having the spirit. And if you feel like where you're at doesn't have enough room, if the ceiling's too low for you to achieve your dreams, get out of that room, and just be willing to change whatever needs to be changed in order to not just think whimsically about what you wanted to be when you grew up as a child, but think whimsically now that you're going to do what you wanted to do when you were a child. So without a doubt, the most important person to me all along the way of being able to bring you guys this message is my friend D Rex. So please put your hands together silently for my friend D Rex. I want to say thank you to you most of all, I love you guys. I love all of you guys that keep tuning in to us every week. Stay tuned next week. We got another one of Jerry's friends, Mr. Jeremy Bullock's going to be in the house with us, and he's got another interesting way of spinning this. You know, every one of us have started this journey the same way. We all came out, and now we're all glad to be here. And so I want you guys to always remember, no matter the weather, whether sunshine or rain, there's no joy without pain. Always remember, we're all in this together. Can I get a hell yeah?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
See y'all next
See it when you see me, but you got